Welcome to the Gray Range Podcast. My name is David Rousseau. We're going to explore the poetry of how we live, how we learn, and how we find our way along this strange path we call life. If you are curious about people, their stories, and all things savage and wonderful, join me on the Gray Range. All right.
1 year, two, does it matter?
It's up to you, man. Player's choice.
Most people use 2 because they're not brain dead.
He could start.
Go ahead.
He could start DJing at any minute.
Yeah, that's right.
No, back when I was a video game nerd, this is how I would play games at 4 a.m. without waking the house up. Just
there you go.
Left ear on, right ear off to hear somebody coming and giving me shit.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen here. So if you want full 3D sound, so it doesn't sound like it's all on one side of your head, you do you.
We're going to have some panoramic sound here.
Trash talking.
All right. Well, we're back for another episode of the Gray Range Podcast. This one's a bit of a different one. The one thing that I've never wanted to do with this podcast is make it about me. But
here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, surprise.
So we'll make it about you guys. Fucking cheers. Thanks for coming.
Amen, brother.
Okay, enough about me. What about you?
Oh, I haven't been up to anything.
Nothing?
No, nothing.
I just work.
Yeah, just work.
Yep.
Yeah, work, walking the dog.
Yep. Sounds like a prairie lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. I finally got my new book published. So
absolutely awesome.
Here it is.
Because we've been talking about it
for months.
Yep.
Yeah. Whiskey Painted Holocaust, if you can believe it.
It's a banger of a title.
Yeah.
It's a bold choice of a title. I have many questions.
The entire foreword is basically an explanation of the title, or a good portion of the foreword.
Awesome. I haven't read that yet, so I'm going to be asking those questions.
That's fine. I hope that if anybody sees this podcast and buys the book, they're not too horribly disappointed with any spoilers that come out. I mean, when doing these kind of collections, it's the first one that I did was an exercise because I had never published a book before. I didn't know the mechanics of it. I didn't know how to do it. I just did it. There was a lot of work that goes into it. When I did this one, I kind of knew what I was doing, and it's usually on the second iteration of doing something, you immediately start to learn before you don't. Like the first time, you don't know anything.
Yeah, it's a learning process the entire time.
Yeah, this is the second time you find out more of what you don't know.
Yeah,
the things that you thought you knew weren't so great. And I know we talked about it with Pastor Travis when he was here, because as I was formatting the book and putting. So formatting is, making it so that it prints within the parameters of the book size, picking the fonts so everything kind of looks right, making sure the pieces kind of line up so you can have, one page, 2 page, 3 page, page numbers, titles, all that kind of stuff. I was trying to make it into something that I wanted, and it wasn't working. And I struggled with it for a while. And then after kind of banging my head against the wall for a little bit, I was like, I can just do this, this, and this. It'll work. But that's not what I want to do. And I was like, well, maybe that's how God wants the book. And I was like, and then it popped in my head. I was like, well, what's God know about books? Like, oh, wait.
Just one thing about one book, right?
Yeah, he's got a bestseller on his hands. So I ran with a few choices that I wouldn't have, that were counterintuitive to me, to get it together. And then, I the cover art was done by an artist out of Florida. So if I have my doubts that she'll see this, but if she does, thank you, Emma, for all the hard work. It's a fantastic cover.
I've never seen anything quite like it. I was telling Kenton, it reminds me of somewhere between like an Iron Maiden record and like Dune, like the.
Yeah, my wife was like, it looks like a comic book.
Yeah, it's.
And I was like, oh yeah, I guess it kind of does look like a comic book.
Like the book itself, like as far as the formatting and stuff goes, like it looks good at first glance here. Like it doesn't look like it's all fucked up.
There's just enough wrong with it that I hate it.
Oh yeah,
so
nice.
I'm like, but that's
good.
That's
You're going to do
me.
a third one,
yeah,
and get it all right.
You're going to have the critical eye on this thing, whereas the rest of us are like, oh, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, there may be another edition with because the formatting of the cover kind of wanted it to fill up the full cover, but there was some size formatting issues. There may be another edition that does that, but this works for what it is. When it comes to like artistic pursuits, you have to choose when it's done.
Yeah,
because you can fiddle fuck around with something and you can ruin it.
You can rip it apart 7 times and still never be happy with it.
You can destroy it by trying to make it perfect.
Yeah.
So when it comes to these kind of things, it's just getting it as close to what my vision is with the time, money, and input bandwidth that I have, and then cutting it loose because the project has to be complete. Until it's in a reader's hands, it's nothing. Right?
Well, yeah, and you got to get your ass in gear to get working on the third one. So, at some point, it has to come out. So.
It would be helpful if I did that sooner rather than later. Why all these lessons are still kicking around in my head from doing the second one? Like maybe hire an editor to do it for me.
Maybe, right? Yeah.
And all of these lessons are never going to be written down, never going to be reflected upon in the moment. It's going to be just exhale. It's done. Cool. Time for beers. Time to talk about a new book, right?
Yeah. Well, these things are like any piece of art. Like when they're done, they should be able to stand alone as what they are. They stand on their own merits. I don't get to decide what either this collection is or what any of the individual pieces inside of this collection are. That's up to the reader.
Yep.
Right? 1,000 people could read the same thing and take 1,000 different things away from it, or 99% of them could be like, this is fucking hot garbage, and one person could be like, this is life changing, and that's just
and that's part of setting it free and letting it do what it does.
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of a roll. It's just you're kind of throwing the dice out there and just kind of see where they land and wherever they land.
I would say there's no doubt that there's been some exponential growth in the artistic license here.
Well, the first one literally. They're published through Amazon, through Kindle Direct Publishing, and they have like a cover generator.
Yeah,
it's like a random cover generator, and that's all I did was I input the words. I don't even know if I selected a font, and they had like 5 different images to pick from in like 4 different colors, and I just went click, 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 done.
Yeah, that's pretty Times New Roman for a font on the original cover there.
Yeah. I just I wasn't thinking too heavily about it. I just wanted to get the book done.
Yeah.
And all right. The one feedback that I don't know if anybody else cares about this, is a book nerd or has a library. But these books are the exact same size. If you are going to do a third book, which I sincerely hope you do, make it the same damn size.
Yeah, that's the best.
Make this so I can display all 6 or 12 or however many you write.
Yeah,
but make them the same size.
That's 2016 and 2017. So the new collection is writing from 2017, and it's 2024. So there are 7 more of these.
There you go.
Yeah, there's 7 more in the can
total
so far. Yeah,
dang.
I don't intend to stop writing at any given moment. But I kind of wanted to do this and invite 2 of my best friends in here to go through a couple of these. We'll talk some shit and taste some whiskey. So we've got a couple of fine beverages here. We'll pour up a short glass and I'll read a piece and we'll kind of shoot the shit about it and go from there.
Sounds good, man.
I'm in.
All right.
We've been talking about how to kind of roll this out for a while, so we'll fucking wing it.
Oh, dude, I'm going blind into this. I'm just here for the ride.
All right, you got to get the rocks out of the freezer.
Yeah, I didn't bring ice down here, so we went fancy with this. Yeah, well, that's the thing. When I was thinking about doing this, I was like, man, I never wanted to make any of these episodes about me. So I just roped 2 other people into it, and then it's no longer about me.
Now it's yeah.
Everybody gets 2.
But all right, let's start with the one that's open.
What's the title of that bad boy?
This one is Smoke Wagon Bourbon, and I believe this is out of Las Vegas.
6 shooters on the bottle.
Yeah. It's open, so it's been tasted. If I remember, it's pretty good.
That's good. Short.
Oh yeah, we'll keep them short.
Yeah, if we're doing 3 of these,
Yeah, we're all working, man. We all got things to do in the morning.
absolutely.
So what do you want to do? You want to taste it and then read one? Is that the?
Well, I'll read it, and we'll taste it and talk about it.
All right. No, I mean like read a piece or read the bottle.
Nah, the bottle's not that important. You can fucking Google Smoke Wagon Bourbon, man, if you really want to. I did.
That's how you came across it.
I see it in the store, and then there's a website called Rum Howler Blog, I think it's called.
Yeah.
When I used to drink rum, I used to look up all the bottles I bought on that one, and they do reviews on spirits and stuff that to get a decent idea of kind of what's out there and what's it like. But if I remember, it's pretty decent.
Sweet notes of corn with roasted oak and caramel.
Yeah, well, it's a bourbon.
Sounds like bourbon.
Yeah, it smells like bourbon too.
Well, cheers, man.
All right,
cheers, gentlemen.
let's do this.
To finishing shit we start.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh, I like that.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. All right.
Yeah, we're only doing one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I go to work tomorrow. That's dangerous.
Yeah, it's not bad. So I thought there's no better place to start than the beginning. I'm not going to read the foreword. I'm not going to read the dedication. They're important, but they're not.
It's not the focal point of this.
Yeah,
self-imposed interview.
They're for the readers. Mm-hmm. You want to check them when you buy the book, but start off with the title piece, and then we'll talk about how that got started. Whiskey Painted Holocaust. Black Death Negative. I hear a voice in my head pleading with me to go. I hold on, despite the rising tide of terror and the insane screaming. What have I done? What is still left to do? There was a point to all this when I began. I'm sure of it now. Every little bit of makes sense over and over. So comforting. The truth is a lie. Ignore storms at your peril. Seek that sleek, black, double-blind study data. Ooh, yeah, that's the real thing. Just stuff it in my brain. Pick an orifice, I'm ready. Learn me up really good. I've got an argument on the internet that I'm never going to win, but I've got whiskey and time and so much anger. Might as well jump in the fire. Roll over, you live little automatons. Stroke your AI neural node clusters like a soft dick, ready to unfold and fuck the world. Night intrudes, and I hold my breath, waiting for the bombs to come. Sunglasses on, high as fuck. Light another cigarette, because who cares? They're landing on the mountains of Megiddo. Better bring your own chair. This place is filling up quick.
Fuck, I like it. It's like it matches the cover.
Yeah, it's when I put the collection together, several hundred pieces, and you read through them. That title and that piece jumped out, and I was like, "Okay, that's the working title. There's no fucking way that's making it to the title." And then as I started to put it together, you got to remember, like, this shit was written 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So
it's part of my question about the title. Like, what the hell was going on in your life that Whiskey Painted Holocaust was that collection?
Well, I mean,
that's
this
what
is
made it.
This is the title comes from hindsight, right? So the title wasn't like, there wasn't a title. It was just a collection of files on my database from 2017. Actually, on several different databases. They all got compiled after a while. And one of the things that, one of the themes that ran through this is this idea of apocalyptic imagery, of a loosening of the hold of sanity, of this idea that we're holding on to things and we're losing things. And when I looked back, like I'm looking back through the past 2 years and then back through COVID and then before that, right? So when you have this kind of hindsight and you're picking pieces to go into a collection, it's hard in some ways that some things, when you write like I do, when you write every single day, it's hard for things to not start to seem somewhat prophetic.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, I don't know what you call it. It's almost like rear view mirror syndrome where you're going back in time and looking at it now. Do you find when you go back that your perspective is altered by, I mean, just the fact that so much time has passed and world events have changed and now you're looking back on it and it's kind of like, does that play a role in the, how you select the pieces or what you like?
Well, for this one, yes. The first one, no. The first one, I didn't give a lot of thought to a thematic content where it was going to be, okay, this is what I'm trying to get through. Again, with that one, it was a situation of I knew the title long before the collection was complete. Like I saw the piece, Children of the New Unknown, and even before I really had conceived of a collection, I knew that would be the title of a collection. And it just worked together. Like, so that piece came from that year when that was the year I was going to start, and then that all fell together. This was, I wouldn't say curated, but there was a hand on it, right? So when I was picking the pieces and arranging them, there was a little bit of thought that went into it. I'm definitely not like conducting it where it's like this piece is this and this is that, all leading to this crescendo of whatever. Basically what I did is I divided them up into kind of several different thematic ideas.
Yeah.
And then I picked, okay, I'm going to do 3 of these, 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 3 of these. So there is a little bit of method to the madness, so to speak. It's kind of like waves.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of how I did this one. I wasn't going to put that much work into it.
Yeah, I don't think you answered this already. Maybe I just missed it because my brain is always like fucking thinking. I'm not just sitting here like waiting for your lips to stop moving before I ask the next question. But did you have the title picked out before? Like, I know it was your working title, but were you still arranging everything after? You
I knew at the moment
I
saw it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
because
you knew that was going to be the title, and then that definitely shaped how.
Yeah. So at some point, like I said, I had work on a bunch of different databases.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had to compile them all into a single database. So I just did that by year, the year they were written. So I had like my writing from 2016, writing from 2017, writing from 2018, writing from 2019, and all I had to do was open the 2017 because I've written thousands of them. It doesn't make any sense to me to read through thousands, pick out a bunch, make the collection on a certain theme, and then next time go through the thousands again, select some more, make it like.
I actually like the way you're doing it, like by the
it's like it's like anthological. It's
yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean there has to be some. You have to kind of pick a starting place. Like,
well, and anybody that's ever built any kind of a playlist for music, like, oh, I'm gonna have an upbeat theme, or I'm gonna have a depressing cowboy music. Quickly it runs out of steam, and we
used to call them mixtapes.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the heavy tape for the gym, or I'm gonna make the.
Is anybody else confused what mixtape is? Okay, it's just me. Got it.
It's not what it is now.
It is not what it is now.
No,
we legit had a cassette tape.
You had to wind it with a pencil.
Well, it had sometimes 2 decks, so you'd record one song onto the thing, and then you put a new tape in there. Go to the song you want, put that song onto that tape. Yeah, it was a process.
You just have to pause and then like play and hit record at the same time. Play and record on the other one, and then right when it stopped, you'd have to like, and then you'd try and time it just right, so you didn't have like lots of spaces between your songs. Because if you did it just right, you could get maybe like 7 songs on a side of a tape.
Depends. You could get a 90-minute Memorex cassette.
Yeah, you could get a 90-minute, which was 45 minutes per side.
Yeah.
So you could.
And that description right there is explaining to me why nobody in my generation wants to work hard anymore.
I guess so.
7 songs, maybe.
I knew people that would like they would figure out what key and note a song ended on before they picked the next song. So they would flow together like they were all part of the same song.
I know dudes that would like legit like listen to a song with a stopwatch and be like, okay, that one's 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So I can fit that one in here.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, because you're trying to maximize it to get the best out of especially your car tapes for cruising.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dead silence on a car road trip is a sin.
Yeah, right in the middle of the song, and that would take a second to flip over to the other side.
Not cool.
Always sinful. Yeah, like this, that particular piece, and the reason why I ran with it was once I read it, and the reason I stuck with it was it captured a lot of the feeling of now. Like we're sitting on a precipice of worldwide change, closer to nuclear war than we've been in almost in human history.
The American elections, on Tuesday? So it's coming right up.
Yeah, it will have happened by the time this comes out.
Yeah,
so hopefully
sure.
this does come out and we don't
it's not just
don't lose all power.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of these will age well, right? You'll write it at the time, like 7 years ago. Like I was kind of shocked. I'm thinking about AI in that much depth.
Oh yeah,
right.
Like the way that it's read, you could have wrote this 7 hours ago, not 7 years.
Well, and that's why it made the title, right? And there's a reason why, like when the artist used AI to create this cover, like I believe she did. It looks like AI stuff, and I didn't push back on that at all because that's what I wanted, right? So originally, I had actually had ChatGPT write me up the proposal to send to the graphic artist. So I said, okay, this is what the book's about. This is what I want for the cover. ChatGPT, tell me how to hire an artist. It wrote like a 2-page proposal. I sent it to the artist. They came back. I was like, that's not what I want at all.
Yeah.
So I came back with a second premise. Now, let's try this. And she nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. All she did was change the font at the top. And when she came back with this, I literally started laughing. When I opened the file, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Am I a teenager again? Like looking at some, at
the glory days are coming back.
Well, and then in a way, I was just like, I have to go with it because it made me laugh. Like not because it was bad, but because it surprised me. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, there we go.
Yeah, that's a good indicator.
Yeah, that's not what I expected. So that's what we're going to go with. And another reason why that works is because part of what I'm doing, I imagine, with this podcast, I think I wrote a piece a long time ago. Maybe I'll get to it at some point. It's called "Why Poetry," because I've never been asked that question, but it's a question I ask myself a lot. Like, why am I doing this, and what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a few different reasons. One of which is it's probably the hardest art form to monetize. Like to take, unless you're going to write Hallmark cards.
I'll level with you, man. Like it's not popular. Like it's not on my radar.
No, and
like
it's not on mine.
Show up in my my Instagram.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up on my X feed. There's nothing about poetry in there. As
Yeah.
far as like it doesn't populate it because I don't think there's that many people doing it. Or I'm probably not in the right. I don't travel in those circles, I guess, either. So, but it doesn't just organically pop up. Whereas like music videos, like other art forms, that'll populate your feed all the time, right?
Well, yeah, the closest that we'll get to poetry, I guess, in the modern day, from what I see, is music, and you've got so many different layers there. You've got beat, rhythm, you've got backup vocals, like in music videos, like you were saying. That's an entirely different art form as opposed to reading ink on a paper and having that resonate like that. That's tough.
Well, I think there was a time like, and Lucas and I have talked about this, like where when you would buy an album, I remember buying like Metallica and Justice for All, and listening to that tape and reading the liner notes in like the tiniest dot point font.
Fucking right. Wasn't it good to have eyesight like that? I bet you if I opened a brand new cassette tape from the 80s, I probably wouldn't even be able to read that small print now.
Yeah, but that stuff, like, that was written poetry in a lot of ways. Like, not all music is poetry. Not all poetry is musical. Not all poetry fits meter and verse. It is what it is. It can be very free form art. That's how I use it. I do meter and verse. I write. One of the longest pieces I ever read was I wrote it in iambic pentameter like Shakespeare.
Okay, break that down for me. Meter and verse.
So meter is your rhyme scheme,
Okay.
right? So like your syllabic rhyming. And then in verse is like how many verses it has. So A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. So you have a rhyme on each line.
Right.
Right. And then,
Okay.
yeah. So then there's different, like hip hop does it really, really good. Like Eminem is really famous for polysyllabic rhyme schemes.
Yep.
Right. So he's rhyming multiple syllables in multiple lines. Right. So that's a form of poetry. It's a function of poetry. But I mean, I would even go so far as to say that not all hip hop is poetry.
Absolutely.
Right? Some of it is, some of it isn't. Some of it's just commercial garbage. But I think what poetry is the most basic form of language communication. Because I don't need to be telling you what I'm telling you. Right? I don't need to write a manual on this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm seeing, or this is how I'm experiencing reality. Because I can't do that. Like, I can't convince you the sky is blue, right? What you see the sky as and you call blue might not be the same thing I see. I can't convince you of that, right? We can't. We don't know what we're seeing through each other's eyes. So we don't know how we're each experiencing this physical reality and then the whole bunch of non-physical stuff that we feel, like emotions and all that kind of shit. But that's what poetry does. That's what this amorphous idea of communication does. It describes the unseen. It describes the intangible. It tries to. It tries to be a tool to describe and to build something that's next to impossible to build. There is no perfect piece. Everything's an attempt.
No, and it also has the prime feature of it is that three people can listen to the same thing, and everybody has a different picture or idea in their head.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's what good writing does.
Yeah.
Right. I think good writing communicates imagery. Good writing creates shared emotion. Good writing, in my mind, and for me, and this is purely me. I'm not saying that this is a fact or this is the way it is, but in my opinion, and I like my music like this too, and my art like this. I like it difficult. I like it when I don't like it when I first hear it, or I don't like it when I first see it. I like it to have more than surface level appeal. Right, something where I'm like, whoa, that's shocking and abrasive.
That's like my relationship with Slipknot as a band, right? Like
sure.
At first, on the surface, I'm like, I don't know if I'm offended or.
I used to be a huge metal fan. I hated Slipknot, but now I like them.
Yeah, and then as the years go by, it's just grown on me, and now I don't know. The more I hear it, the better I understand it.
Yeah, but I think there's things like that, and I think.
It speaks to me in a different way. Whereas it maybe at the time in my life when I was first introduced to some of their songs or some of their material, I was like, I don't fucking dig it. Now I'm like, yeah, I dig it all.
Well, and how often does that happen? Like, perspective.
Yeah.
You're looking at the piece. You know that that's going to be the title someday, or that's going to be the focal point. Yeah, same thing with your music. You might understand it or think you do, but with the addition of time and perspective and wisdom in life, you look back on it and you're like, oh, okay, so now that I've got these laps around the sun, there's a few more layers I can put on top of this and understand it a little better.
Well, yeah, absolutely. You're going to change, and allowing yourself that ability to change. Like, there's things about us that physically change, like the way that our taste buds work, the way our brains are wired to process flavors change as we age. This is documented.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure, because I did not like bourbon when I was 8 years old, but now I just love it.
I've loved it the whole time. The very first thing I drank was a bottle of Jack Daniels when I was about 14 years old. Yeah, you know, the funniest fucking thing in the world, I just remembered this the other day. It made me laugh. So we had Ben Brochu from Hinterland Outdoors sitting here last week. And it turns out that we know people. He's from Donnelly, McLennan area. And
no way.
My best friend growing up in Jasper, his mom drove his school bus. So he knew the family that I knew growing up with in Jasper, whose older brother was the first guy to ever buy me booze, bought a bottle of Jack Daniels. And I hadn't thought of that in years until I talked to Ben and started thinking back on these people that I knew from that area that I grew up with.
Small world, man.
Well, that's
totally
one
bizarre.
of those moments where you're like, oh, the world, it really is 4 square blocks.
Yeah.
Like, you will run into people somehow, some way they know each other. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really bizarre to me. But I think I struggled a lot with this title. I had a lot of conflict around it.
It's got a little bit of
There's a trigger word in it.
yeah, and it's got some shock value, and I don't think that's necessarily what your motive was for picking the title. I don't think you're like, ha ha, like slap in the face.
No, shameless plug. He wanted to offend and shock people, so they go, "What in the hell is this?" Open it up, and they bought it.
Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be an element of punk rock in anything that I do,
for sure.
But in this day and age, where words can be the difference between something that gets published and something that doesn't, something that gets online, something that doesn't, something that gets you canceled and set on by the woke mob and your livelihood threatened and stuff like that. It took me a little bit of introspection. Like, I had every intention of changing this.
Yeah.
But by the time I was halfway done doing it, I was completely committed. I was just like, nope, we're rolling with this, because the one thing that I couldn't do is self-censor.
Right, and I think and the fact that you're self-publishing, I think, gives you the creative license to kind of do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, I don't know if that's a title you could take to Penguin or Random House.
Well, the thing is I'm not self-publishing it.
Simon & Schuster.
Amazon's publishing it.
Well, sure, but right? I mean, it's you driving it. I mean, you're not trying to get a book deal with, like I said, Random House or Penguin or whoever the fuck does books these days.
Full disclaimer: if Random House or Penguin want to pick up my next collection, I'm more
than
willing to sit down and talk.
Board right now.
More than willing to talk.
We'll have those people on the podcast.
I'm going to try and sell more than like 40 of these first.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just that's the thing, is I don't want to come off as you don't want to come off as like I'm a hack writer in my own mind.
Yeah, right? For sure. But my
point I don't want to be cheap.
Right, but my point being is you didn't pick this just based on like trying to slap everybody in the face. You picked it because the title spoke to you in a way that nobody else might understand. But you had that piece picked out that was kind of the working title for it all, and it kind of grew into what it was.
It did. It took me. I did some research on like the word Holocaust. So holo and cost, so cost meaning fire, and basically being a fire offering. So a fire sacrifice. So total immolation is what it is. So offering that sacrifice, like the Greeks used to offer fire offerings, right? And that's what that was. In a way, that's what this is, right? I'm offering up this experience, all the blood, sweat, tears, emotions, life experience that went into making this. Once you make it and I send it out, it's gone, right? Once I hit publish, it's gone. It's no longer mine. Yeah. It belongs to whoever buys it. It belongs to whoever reads it, right? So that's my offering. That's the burning of it is the past going into the past. But the other interesting thing was the title piece. It invokes a line, they're landing on the mountains of Megiddo, which is like a twofold thing. So the mountains of Megiddo is Armageddon. The mountains of Armageddon in Israel is supposed to be the site of the final battle.
Right.
So that was unintentional with the name Whiskey Painted Holocaust. So you've got these references to Holocaust, you have references to Israel, references to apocalypse, end times imagery, references to artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's pretty timely.
And a reference in the beginning, it kind of starts off with this unknown where, and some of the times when I'm writing, I don't know what I'm writing when I start. I just start writing, right? Like, because I can't just sit there, what am I going to write about? Because I'll never fucking start.
Right, yeah.
So literally, it just starts with whatever. Like sometimes it's there and it's right in my head. Oh, I'm going to do this. Rarely, but that does happen. But a lot of the time, I'm just going to sit down and start writing.
Yeah, put pen to ink and
see what happens, and just see where the words take me. Right. In this case, it started off with basically this thing where I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, to this full like graphic like end of the world scenario.
Prophecy of 2024, right?
Let's hope fucking hope
what's
not.
in your coffee?
But by the time this podcast comes out, the Middle East could be black glass. We don't know.
Yeah,
right?
who the fuck knows?
They're fighting it out down there right now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's just it. Like that was part of it too, where with how hot things are in the world and media and stuff like that. I didn't want to be seen as taking a cheap way to get in with something like that. which is why I struggled with the title quite a bit. But in the end, like I said, I couldn't put the piece out and be dishonest with myself.
Yeah.
I had to be honest with what I wanted to do and why I was doing it. And I think it just took me some time to make sure that my intentions were right.
Well, I think so, because I remember when you're like, yeah, I'm working on the new collection, and I'm like, okay, what's the title? And you're like, and you kind of looked at me first, and you were kind of quiet for a second, and then you're like,
do I have to say it?
It's kind of like strap in, and then you told me it's like whiskey painted Holocaust, and I just remember like there was a bit of shock value. I'm like, what? Like what the fuck? But it wasn't shocking for me coming from you, because I was like, okay, like, because maybe I know you a little bit better than, like, you know what I mean, like on that level.
Sure.
It wasn't strange, but it was certainly it was interesting.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I was like, oh, I'm kind of like, now I'm gonna have to tell people, right? There'll be people at my work that are gonna be like, oh, I heard you wrote another book. What's it called? And I'll be like, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, HR might have a field day.
You have to. The thing is, when you do stuff like this, you have to be willing to stand behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what I put out in the foreword. Is kind of like, is kind of my journey to, you know, here's what it is, here's why I picked it, here's kind of the conflict that I had internally with it, and here's how I resolved to keep it that way. And then obviously to make it the title piece.
Yeah.
And now I just want to fucking make a t-shirt that just says Black Death Negative on it.
Yeah.
Dude, that jumped out at me. I'm like, how is that not a death metal song or album?
Look for that coming soon on the web store.
Yeah.
I need that t-shirt.
I want to see like goth kids running around with that on their t-shirt. That would make me smile.
I am
goth
not a
kids
goth
anymore?
kid, but I'll fucking wear that t-shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know the goth kids are a thing anymore.
Yeah.
It'll come back if it's gone.
Oh no, they're out there. They're out there.
Hey, if this
That kind of darkness.
It's
never
kind
goes
of-
away.
I think
this
it's-
Iron Maiden-esque cover is coming back,
Doesn't
getting
goth kids come back after bell bottoms in the cycle? We got to get through bell bottoms again, and then we'll get back to goth kids. It's like an endless loop here.
Self-licking ice cream cone. Here we go.
Absolutely. Well, let's. I'm gonna finish this, and then we'll select another, and we'll select another piece, and go from there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shout out to the folks at Smoke Wagon, though. That is a fine bourbon.
Yeah, it's very smooth and very drinkable.
Yep.
I'm not a connoisseur, but
Got a little bite to it. I'm not really like notes of coffee and cherry and all that kind of guy, but
what was the claim again? It was like caramel. I was like, yeah, okay.
There was a time in not too recent history that I was a Jack Daniels with a splash of Coke for color kind of guy. I am not the authority on bourbon.
Captain Morgan with some ginger ale.
Ugh. Turned my stomach.
we did a lot of that stuff.
Sweet notes of corn with roasted oak and caramel.
Yeah.
Aged a minimum of 39 months. Yeah, fuck, I'll buy it. I just like the 6-shooters on the front.
And that's all it takes. Sometimes that's all it takes.
I'm a sucker for gun-themed alcohol, right?
Not that those two things should ever be mixed.
Well, normally you put away the alcohol, when the guns come out, or
Yeah, but what's
put away the
common
guns put away the guns when the alcohol comes out. That's how that
Yeah,
works.
there you go.
Yeah.
But what we understand inherently sometimes needs to be said. Like whiskey painted Holocaust. Well, sir, care to explain? Hence the forward.
I've got another one here that I wanted to read that's kind of in the same theme. I don't want to give away the farm on what I would, I'm going to read a few of these pieces on podcasts and stuff like that. But maybe if I'll look in the fucking table of contents.
I got a good one.
Do I get to pick one?
Yeah, you can read your own.
Jeez.
We got plenty of whiskey.
Yeah, you can read it after you buy the book at home in the safety of your own home.
I can't lie, the title just jumped out at me. On Killing, I'm like, what?
Dude,
That was a book.
Yeah,
I'm listening to the audiobook on the way to work right now. It's incredible.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's that dude's a little fucked up, but there was some very cool stuff in that book that
Yeah, I read the
Spurred
book.
good
and
conversation.
I don't even think I finished it. I think I got most of the way through it and was like, I have got all I'm going to get out of this book.
he Grossman has a bit of an agenda there, and he's a little.
What?
I don't agree with a lot of his shit, but the scientific part of that, like what it takes to build a killer, it was very interesting.
Yeah, he broke it down in a good way.
There was some the research based stuff in the book was very good.
Yeah, I think.
All right. piece number. Oh, sorry.
Oh, hold on. I had one, but it's not exactly the one I thought it was. Yeah, Grossman's. I think he kind of did himself a disservice in some of the. Actually, I was just listening to a podcast where somebody was saying they were speaking at the same event he was, or something like that, and he basically somebody started asking questions, and he was like, he stopped the presentation and was like straight up like, I don't take questions.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Is this your bulletproof mind seminar, sir?
Yeah,
or
like,
you're just fucking shutting down?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
Just me fucking throwing spears at him.
Some guy with way more stroke than I'll ever have.
Fucking one bourbon and turn me loose.
All right, fuck. Well, if you've got one, man, fire away.
Oh yeah. Well, we gotta pour one up then.
All right.
What are you doing?
Pick it.
All right.
That don't matter to me.
Rabbit hole. I'm in.
Let's do these Writer's Tears. I've wanted to try a bottle of Writer's Tears for a long time. I'm not a big Irish whiskey guy, which is weird because I'm Irish and I'm a writer. Well, part Irish anyway.
Irish enough to try.
But I kind of always knew I'd end up with a bottle. So thank you for being the guy to buy it for me, man. I appreciate that.
I didn't bring nothing but my personality.
That's why you're here, man.
Well, you're here every time, so
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna read this over.
That's why I hired you and paid you nothing.
I just picked it based on the title. I won't even prep by reading it over once. I'll see if I can pull it off. I'm not really much of a public speaker or a
bro, when I read out loud, I trip over my words more times than not.
You know, it was a podcast with Jordan Peterson, and him and one of his guests got really down the rabbit hole on poetry, and he said something about. No, it wasn't poetry. It was about when he wrote the 12 Rules for Life.
Oh, yeah,
and he was saying he would write the chapter and read it out loud.
Ooh.
And he's like, the cadence of the words, if you can't read it out loud, it's no good.
Yeah, nobody's going to read that to themselves.
I guess we're about to find out if I can read that out loud.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of nervous.
Yeah, some of the way I write stuff.
And this kid's is called a litmus test.
I do read it out loud, and some I don't. Some of it's like, it sounds great in my head. Cut, paste, go.
Typically, like if I'm doing any public speaking, it's in front of a bunch of people, but we're following a curriculum, and I have my notes, so I stay on track. Like I literally have notes, or we're fucking.
It's on a subject matter that you know well and give a shit about.
Yeah, we'll try poetry. It's never too late.
Well, the part of the reason why I wanted to do poetry again also is to demystify this. It gets a bad rap from men. From the guys in my mind,
sure, because
who
I'm not gay,
who need to be communicating the most, who need to think of it as the psychedelic trip inside yourself with language. One of the things that I get at with this, one of the theories that I have, is language is technology, right? How we describe the world, how our brains turn what we seeing, what we're feeling and experiencing in this 3D reality into a way to express it to other people. Is technology.
Yeah, sort of how you express to me what you're seeing or what you're feeling based on what you see.
God spoke the universe into existence. Jesus Christ is the Word made flesh. Right? In my mind...
Too soon to call Travis? Too late, maybe?
But in my mind, how we communicate and how we see is directly related to how we see the world and how we build the world around us. Right? Like how we decide, we use the words to come up with the ideas to take measurements to build something. We need the words first, right?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah,
good
exactly.
standby.
Yeah,
7.
We're about to find out how this technology works. Have you ever had anyone read one of your pieces back to you? Or will this?
No, I had years ago when I was made music. I did a good bit of songwriting.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine turn one of my pieces into a song.
Okay.
And I actually had one guy who he was reading on my website, and he emailed me. And he's like, hey, man, I wrote this soundscape based on piano off of one of your pieces. And I was like, that's cool and creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
I'll put my hand up. I want to hear that. I want to have access to that. That sounds fucking awesome.
I'll try and dig it up. It's like, that's a long fucking time ago. It's got to be there somewhere, though.
Pre-internet.
No, it wasn't pre-internet. It was...
He's not that old.
Yeah, probably about 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
dang.
Let's go, bro.
All right, send it.
Well, hold up. Then we have to fucking
all right,
polish this up first. What is this? Writer's Tears.
Writer's Tears.
That might be what happens when
if I'm crying by the end of this, it's all your fault.
Oh, I like that too.
Ooh, that's smooth. That's peaty.
Bourbon tastes like bourbon. I'm in.
Right. Fuck it, let's do it.
Well, Writer's Tears is no bourbon.
Irish whiskey.
It's an Irish whiskey.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me apologize to all of Ireland.
Pot and malt.
Mm-hmm.
Pot and malt. All right, let's do it on killing. It would be easy to say that crazy is the new sane, but it's always been this way. You're just seeing it with new eyes and the same old brain. But it's okay, because the same old sane was lame. That brittle little culture was always going to fade. Something new and savage was always on its way. The writing is all over your face. I admit it. I derive so much pleasure from the panic in your eyes, like an agoraphobic dropped into the middle of the big outside. The chanting voices of the throngs respond to another celebrity's call. Come, lost and frightened. Don't let them build the wall. You're losing your grip, so it's easy to see that you will segregate and dehumanize the others. It makes them so much easier to kill. Hate is a hand that holds you in the dark. It says you're not wrong to be wishing death on those who don't share what you see so clearly. I can see the rising tide, and I'm prepared to watch it crest. Life preserver by my side, it's going to be a fucking mess. Because one and one want to divide, believing that they each know best. Bitter and preoccupied, denying that they're getting wet. They're going to try to hold us down. They're going to try to make us fight. As the waters rise, we realize the big money rides high on both sides. All that matters is that there's less of us. No questioners, no resistance. Legalize whatever it takes to pacify us, hypnotize us with dreams that we know only live in our heads at night. I'll give you a reason to kill, and you'll give me your life. You'll burn. You'll riot. You'll hit at my beck and call. You will do anything at all to take away this new strange, this new sane, this new day. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, that look on your face. Here come the waves. Dang, bro, that's fucking pretty dark. I like it.
I'm ready to go pick up a gun and storm whatever hill you want.
Pretty applicable to the time.
Your words and your tone.
We got to think of what was happening in 2017. So, Trump was elected at the tail end of 2016. You had riots going on. You had one of the things that I always thought, I'm not I don't like to proselytize on the political side too much because I think that's done to death. But one of the things that Donald Trump did in getting elected to being president was he upset the apple cart.
Yeah.
The game had always been played one way, right? By people who knew the parameters of the game. It's a game of houses, right? It's certain lineages, it's certain parts of the country, it's certain people with certain influence, with certain businesses that kind of make the world go round, so to speak. And he came in and kind of disrupted things a little bit.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And what I started to see was what we're looking at now. When we're seeing this division, we're seeing this pushback. And Andy Stumpf did a podcast today that was just about basically pleading to people if you're from the military,
what are you doing?
Don't advance this idea of civil war. Don't
no, fuck no.
If you've seen combat, if you're then you should be pushing back as hard against any kind of internal conflict that you possibly can. And when I look at a piece like that was written in 2017 and I look at it today, that's the embers of a fire that's burning now.
Yeah. That's
7 years later, and it didn't get better, it got worse. A piece like that, in my mind, a lot of the stuff I write, in my mind, hopefully, it's fucking obsolete. I'm a lot of people are inspired by dreams. I'm inspired by nightmares, right? I have terrible fucking dreams, and I wake up in the morning, and I do my best to make sure they never become a fucking reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so question on that. Is that part of your... Because I know you wake up in the morning, have coffee.
Every day so far.
And write.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is that part of your thing where it's all right, what was rattling around in the head last night? Let's get it on paper and get it out.
No, sometimes it's undeniable. Like, yeah, I mean, I've always been a vivid dreamer. There's dreams that I had when I was 5 years old that I remember to this day. I've always been a vivid dreamer. I don't remember all of them every night. And they don't always inform my writing. They do inform how I think.
Sure.
Right. And how I approach the day. And recently, probably just in the last few years, where I'm more inspired by the bad dreams than the good ones. Right. Because I'm pretty happy with my life in general. Right. Like there's no dream I can have at night that's better than I'm so grateful for the life that I'm living, for the people who are in my life, for this opportunity to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing my best to live my best life and to do the best I can every day. And I'm just happy to get up in the morning and get another chance. Right.
Right.
But when I encounter nightmares or bad thoughts in general, then that becomes the impetus behind work. Right. It's like, okay,
absolutely.
Like if I'm feeling bad, I don't want to dwell on feeling bad. I'm like, I feel like shit because, I'm drinking too much or not eating right or not sleeping well or whatever. So, all right, well, let's quit doing those things for a while. Let's get in the gym. Let's look after this. Like if I'm feeling the writing is not good, I don't stop. I do more. Right. It's that the thing we were talking about before, like the war of art, right? When you're encountering that resistance, you don't acquiesce to the resistance. You push further.
Oh, you lean into it.
Is
you embrace the suck.
Therapeutic, maybe too, as well. Maybe in retrospect, maybe not at the time you're doing it, but do you find that after you write a piece, it's kind of like defragmenting the hard drive, like it gets it out of there, and you can kind of move on to the next thing? Is it
100%?
Yeah,
100%. I don't think if it didn't do that, I don't think I would have kept doing it every day for this long.
Carry on with it,
yeah. One of the interesting things that I found out about this pretty early on, because it all started from Jocko, right? He was like, well, if you want to get good at chin-ups, you do chin-ups every day.
Every morning.
Yeah, you do a lot of chin-ups. You want to get better at doing burpees, you do a lot of burpees. So I was like, well, I kind of want to get better at writing. So I'm going to write every day.
Yep.
And poetry worked because I could complete a complete piece every day. And that worked for me. Because it was just an exercise originally. Like it was going to be, I'm going to build up to novels or whatever, right? Which I think a lot of writers do. They start with something free form like poetry and work their way up to it. But one of the things that I found was I would just write them, they're done, move on to the next day. And I wouldn't read them until I published them to my website on the weekend.
Yeah.
So on Saturday morning, I'd get up, have my coffee, sit down, and I would have 6 pieces because I'd write another one Saturday. So I would have 6 pieces to put up on my website, on my blog. And I would get to go through my week. And it was what I realized is like, oh, I know
Wednesdays fucking suck, man. Every Wednesday piece is
I've read enough Garfield to know that those days are Mondays.
It's Mondays. Yeah, I could handle a little more lasagna in my life. But what I found was I wasn't wondering what I think about things. I wasn't curious about how I was feeling. Like I had this moment every single day where I was like, because I try and write from a subconscious point. Like I don't sit down, like I said, I don't sit down often and
it
think
puts
about
you in
what I'm
touch
writing.
with yourself.
Yeah, it was a centering thing.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It kind of grounds you back to reality, I would say, as far as like, yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't have any questions.
Everybody has that ritual where it's like either getting home, taking the work gear off, getting the shower. Like you've got a set script for who you are.
Oh, it's so much of that
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I know who I am right now in this moment.
But it's kind of in the one thing we don't do in any of those things is we don't record it.
No.
Right? So in this exercise, it's a snapshot in time where I'm just trying to download my subconscious onto a piece of paper. And it can be 2 lines, it could be 2 pages. Like, I don't decide. I had some pieces that I was like seriously late for work because I started writing and ended up 7 pages long. Like, and it was just, that's the way it went that day. I didn't get my coffee because this piece just kept going and going and going. And by doing that, I created some stuff that A, I didn't think I was capable of creating. And B, when I would go back and review it to publish it later, I had some introspection into the way I was thinking. And I was like, oh, why am I thinking that way? Why did I write that? Why did I kind of understand how I was feeling that day. Maybe I forgot about it because it's later in the week and that was Tuesday. And now I'm revisiting it. And it's like, oh, maybe that was impactful. Oh, maybe that does mean something to me. Oh, maybe I need to work on this shit. And it gave me accountability to myself about how I was feeling and how I was interacting with the world. And that, yeah, how can that not pay dividends? It's like free fucking therapy, man.
And first thing in the morning, there's a lot to be said for starting your day by, man, I feel like such a fucking retarded caveman in comparison. I just literally, I do 10 push-ups every day. Why? Because that's 3,650 every year that nobody else did.
100%,
people are like,
man.
Oh, my rifle's heavier. I can't frame. I'm like, did you do your 10 push-ups this morning? Or if they're working on their grip, I'm like, well, then do your push-ups on your fingertips. Like, man, yeah.
100%.
I should work on downloading my brain instead, maybe. I don't know.
But I think Jocko was right. Like, I think he just said, like, when he said, if you want to get good at something, do it a lot. Yeah. Just do it a lot. Right. And that's what this became. It was an exercise that led to more and more. And once I had thousands of these things, it was like, well, what am I going to do with thousands of these stupid things? Like, publish a book. And now it's like, well, let's publish a second book because now there's a podcast, and apparently I read poetry on the podcast.
And now we're on to 2. Let's go for 3.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You've got material.
Absolutely, there's another one coming.
Shit. This should keep us going for a minute on the.
I've got something else cooking that's kind of cool that I'm going to keep under my hat for a little while. But there's more coming, man. I don't think I would do this if it didn't excite me in some way. If it didn't kind of keep me looking at it and going, yeah, that's an interesting path to follow.
Man, the amount of times that we've had that I've seen excitement in you based on what you just said, like, yeah, I wrote this piece that I'm putting out, or I read something on your blog that you published. I'm like, hey man, where the fuck did that come from? What was that?
Yeah.
And there's that glimmer of, yeah, I was excited about that. For that reason alone, you should keep doing what you're doing.
I want the Black Death Negative T-shirt.
I think it has to happen. If there's any graphic artists out there who
Black Death Negative
who want to do a graphic for Black Death Negative, I'm going to put up on the web store. Which by the time this airs, the web store will be live.
If it's really fucking wicked, well, I'll fucking get a tattoo.
Don't say that around me.
I
will make sure it happens.
Matching tattoos, anyone? Yeah.
I love that.
I'm the guy with the best.
Oh, there ideas. It is. Okay. Yeah, this collection rides in waves. So there's like these extreme crazy waves, and then there's these kind of lower. I guess if I was smart, I'd read kind of one from each.
Genre.
Yeah, but I'm not that smart.
Chapter. I don't even know where I fell in the chapters there. I just saw the titles, like, oh, that seems legit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were on the on just this side of crazy.
We weren't in like the rainbow fucking love land there for sure. No unicorns there.
If you like the
was not a butterfly in that poem.
Yeah, if you like the table of contents, I stole that from a Leonard Cohen poetry collection. I was like, how do I want to do my table of contents? So I pulled out a Leonard Cohen poetry collection, and I just copied his. Because the formatting on Word was fucking up and not letting me do it, so I had to manually make my own table of contents.
Holy fuck, I already got my next 3 picked out.
So thank you, Leonard Cohen. All right. This is a
strap in.
Yeah, this one, when I read this one, when I was publishing, when I was formatting, and I was like, oh shit. Like when I was talking about like somehow they're kind of prophetic, this one's kind of prophetic. Written in 2017. Maybe I'll just listen to it fucking Alex Jones. I don't know. This one's called Post-Transhumanism.
Oh, fuck.
I was avoiding this one for this reason.
Yeah, I deliberately did. Skipped over it.
You're going to feel a little pressure. Tell me when you can feel it's in, popping through your skin, mesmerizing drug-like information. That's how all these wars begin. The process used to be a little more organic, but now we use machines. I see you're fighting down the panic. This planet's rife with a disease. But don't worry, we have a plan. It's in motion right now. Hold still. Here comes another inoculation, a battery of needles to defeat those nasty feelings. We've got one to kill your want, one to kill your sex drive, one to kill your God, one to kill your right mind, one that makes you calm, one that breaks your will, one that makes you kill. By now you know the drill. You're not really you, so don't fight it. You're just a collection of things we can manipulate with science. There's no soul, just horrible consciousness. We're taking control back from the optimists. We'll live longer if you just all realize that most of you will have to die for us to live forever. Shh, don't move. I'm making sure you're still you. We're getting out of here. We've got to get clear before the artificial life gets here. We caved into our fear, our arrogance and envy, made ourselves an enemy we can't kill, all because we thought the future was ours. We were going to walk the stars and live forever. Now look where we are. If history has shown us one thing, the more advanced society always wins. And one other thing has never changed. Human beings make great slaves. You're going to feel a little pressure.
Fucking jab me harder, Daddy. I don't even... Yeah. Trying to bury all that stuff deep down inside.
I don't know, man.
It's timely.
Yeah, for being written in 2017 and then having lived through the previous 7 years, like going on 8 since then.
I mean, you can extrapolate and superimpose that on fucking anything in the last 24 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary in a way because to me, like I said, when I write, I listen to my subconscious. Like I try and write with the back of my mind, not the front of my mind. So if these were the things I was picking up on in 2017, that means like I didn't invent this. Right? I didn't pull this out of the sky. This all came from input that was lodged somewhere inside of my brain. And like I said, maybe I'm just listening to too much fucking Alex Jones, except that it all fucking happened, right? So maybe there is some sort of, what do they call it, cosmic consciousness or whatever. Like maybe it's all out there, but I don't think that. Like I think for me, I plug into a lot of inputs. Like if you look at like what I follow, if you look at my social media, like I follow both sides of every argument. I'm plugged into every single independent journalist I can find. If they're an independent journalist, I follow them right away. If it starts to look like they're being a paid shill, I might unfollow them. But sometimes I want to know what the paid shills have to say, right? So I'll start following them. My wife the other day, I've got after we went shooting there, I come home. UFC's on. It's in the afternoon because it's in Abu Dhabi. I've got the TV on, cranked. I've got the Joe Rogan Fight Companion on my laptop, cranked, and I'm on my phone watching a video. And my wife is like, what the hell are you doing? Like, how can you pay attention to this? And I'm just like, that's kind of what I like. I like to be kind of overstimulated. Yeah, I like to be like in a wash of sensory information. Not all the time.
See what sticks.
Yeah, not all the time, but sometimes.
Sensory overload.
Yeah. Hunter Thompson used to write with like 2 TVs on with different news channels and like music cranked, and I'm like, I can't write with music on at all. I'll just end up writing the music.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is. But there's something about that with writers where you're some people like to take in a lot of different inputs, and then I've heard some people if they're writing horror, they won't read or watch any horror for like months beforehand.
Yeah, and you kind of want to cleanse the.
And then there's some who will sit down and just gorge. They'll sit down and like watch 50 horror movies and then start writing just to kind of get like all these different influences, all these different inputs.
I think there's a certain amount of that is okay. I can intake multiple sources of information, but I can't deliver on it. Like if I'm doing a task, I am doing that task. I'm not a multitasker. I do one thing at a time.
Neither am I.
I prioritize, execute. Like I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, and I do that thing till it's done. Because if I try and multitask it, like too much going on at once, it's like fucking okay. Now I got 9 things going on and nothing's happening. So
yeah, the only thing I can do in that case is when I'm just taking in stuff. I don't mind taking in like multiple forms of. The only time I won't do that. The only time I don't like to do that is when there's other people around.
Yeah.
Because somebody said something to me one time that really fucking stuck with me. But they were like, if you're reading in a room full of people, it's like the biggest fucking insult in the world. Because like those words on that page are going to be there later. Those people might not be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's.
And I see the same thing with people on their phones a lot, where I'm just like, oh man, kind of the same thing. Like that shit, does it really matter more than the people you're sitting there with? Like,
probably not, man.
I'm totally guilty of it. I'm not judging, but I'm just, when I see it, I'm kind of like, oh man, really? Can we do a little better?
Well, now think about it. In modern society, if you're talking to somebody and it's important to you, and they're like, yeah, and they're like on their phone, like it's not important to them.
Yeah, sounds
so
good, bro.
What's
on page 76?
Yeah, it makes it hard to have a discussion. It's the same thing. Like,
no, it makes it really easy because you go, oh,
sure,
what I'm talking about doesn't matter. So, okay,
doesn't matter to that person.
Absolutely.
So why share it with them?
Yeah, it's part of that unspoken language, right? That body language, that attention, what you're paying attention to.
Wiggle the mouse, bro. We got to look professional here.
One day.
Welcome back to the Gray Range Podcast.
I think not looking professional is part of our charm.
I think so. It's funny as fuck.
So Kenton, did you find something in there that piqued your curiosity or piqued your interest?
Holy shit, let me catch up here, boys.
Give me a moment. There's not just 5 in here.
Yeah, there's 100 and some. I don't know. Yeah, that's the other thing about writing these things is like there's a lot of them.
All right. I'll see if I got one. Also, I think this is the first time I've been here since the new table. Dude, legit.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I'll have to look them up. Actually, I'll throw them in the description, is reclaimed wood furniture. Todd reclaimed wood furniture? I have to look. But yeah, I'll put them in the description. And I'll be shouting out Emma, who did the cover art on this collection, in the description for this, for sure. This is... like I said, there is probably no more uncomfortable podcast that I'm doing. Probably why we're drinking so much whiskey is because I had no idea where to start.
Holy fuck, my name's on the back of the book, bro.
Yeah, you're in this.
Awkward.
What else is your name on? I think you'll be okay. It's just a book.
Oh, thank you. Cheers.
What am I cheersing with? All right, we'll do a left-hand cheers.
Man, yeah. Cheers.
All right, gentlemen.
To making it to the back of the book.
Well, this is really my first time seeing the whole thing too, so I didn't.
I didn't share the back of the book.
This literally is the advanced copy right now.
Yeah, these are writers' proofs. That's why they say not for sale.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
I'm not giving this back.
It's yours to keep. My mom said she ordered one yesterday and it came already today.
Oh, really?
From Amazon. Took one day.
Well, because if you look at the very manufactured by Amazon.ca in Atchison, Alberta, so they've got a printing
pretty close.
Press.
Yeah, there was a printing outfit down there when I was looking to publish my first book. Amazon was not my first choice.
Yeah.
I was looking at a bunch of different self-publishing companies. It just was cost prohibitive for me to do it that way. Amazon prints it for free.
Yeah,
prints the book for free. They give you a royalty for what they distribute. And for an independent artist, I really don't think, because there's a bunch of what they call them vanity press, where you pay to have things published. So it looks like it's published by a big publishing house and stuff like that, but you're paying through the nose thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you're paying for that makeup on it, right?
Yeah. I think, what is it, Cam Haynes was saying he had like 25,000 or something books published, or 55,000 books published, something like that. They sat in his garage forever.
Oh yeah.
boxes and boxes and boxes of books until he, eventually ended up on Rogan, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted his book.
Right. Is this it's kind of print on demand then?
This is print on demand.
Okay, well it seems to be in the world of throwaway things that we live in. Where it seems like there's so much like excess material that print on demand is probably a good thing. Like,
yeah, and the thing about, and I don't want to get too down on poetry and stuff like that, like, but I have to be like perfectly honest. Like when I started down this road, and I was like, okay, I had published enough of these things, right? I'd published 2,000, let's say, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I'd ever call myself a poet, but
I will. He's a poet, folks.
The next piece I'm going to read will address that.
All right.
But
it's aptly titled, I Am Not a Poet.
But when I started to look into the industry and where it comes and the lineage, and it's very academic, and all I saw was gatekeeping. All I saw was
cliques and clubs.
Yeah, and most of the journals and most of the publications, they're catering on their face. They're saying we are going to publish these people, and I'm not those people. Right. The LGBTQ marginalized voices, BIPOC, whatever. Right. And all the power to them. Like, publish what you want to publish. Do what you want to do. Do I think there needs to be more of those voices? Sure, absolutely. But I'm going to do me. And if you guys are going to do you, that's fine. I don't need it. I don't need to get into your club. I don't need to get into the Poets Guild of Scotland or Wales or Britain. Because a lot of these things, like when it comes to poetry, it's super fucking old.
Yeah.
Like it's almost medieval.
And you got to sell
guilds.
Your fucking soul to get into the club too. You got to be somebody
I don't
you're not.
care.
Yeah.
I don't care about these, what did I like to call it? Masturbatory glad handing. Like when it's just a bunch of people sitting around, jerking each other off about how good their stuff is. And I'm like, your writing is no better than anybody else's. Some of it's great, and some of it's poetry. And I've been criticized on saying that before, with some of it's real and some of it's not. I've been called a hobbyist. I've been called a lot of stuff. And the thing is I don't care. It's not going to stop me from writing a complete piece every day until they nail shut my casket, as one of my favorite authors, Robin Jordan, said. He'll write till they nail shut my casket. And I don't care about your club. I don't care about your guild. I don't care about your preferences to certain pronouns. I don't care. That has nothing to do with what I'm writing. I'm not going to actively like trash on you or go against you, because I believe that you have the right, I have an absolute belief in the right for free speech, which is why this title ended up being what it was. But at the same time, I don't have to play your game. We're in 2024. I can make my own game. I can play my own game. And that's where we're at right now, is we're playing our own game, right? We're seeing Rogan having Trump on, having
DJT.
Yeah, like we're seeing the game change. And I don't see any way, like there's two outcomes for this, which is like dystopian future 1 or dystopian future 2.
Yeah,
there is no utopian future.
In any case.
It seems fucked either way.
In any case. I want masturbatory glad handing to be the next T-shirt, because, bro,
I'm on Team Black Death Negative.
Yeah.
Oh no, that one's happening. Masturbatory glad handing is if that does not sum up exactly who you are when you put pen to paper, it doesn't matter. You're doing it for you.
That's just what I saw when I saw the pay to play.
Sure,
you got to be published by this house before this house will consider you.
Right,
You got to be these 3 anthologies have to be under your belt before you can get in this one. And it's just a club, and it's just gatekeeping. And if that's what they want to do and call what they're doing true poetry and whatever, fine.
Cool, but there's also a difference between criticism and constructive criticism. And
sure.
So if you're trying to get into those clubs, it's all criticism.
Sure, and if any of them would deign to step down from their ivory tower and pick up a copy of Whiskey Painted Holocaust and review it,
the Grey Range podcast,
I will tip a glass to their bravery and their courage to come down to my level and do what they're doing. Like,
this is the grunge music of poetry.
No. But thank
It's
you.
gonna live way longer.
Thank you. Yeah. No, this one's not going to eat a shotgun in the second year.
No, it's more punk.
Damn.
With a
Too
twist
soon?
of
No.
lime.
It's been a while. Come on, man. I mean, we made it to the second collection. I mean, yeah.
Well, fuck, we made it past 20 episodes.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the.
As
We're almost sophomores now in this, I think.
Yeah, as
that
a
way.
fan watching you guys work, well done, guys.
Thank you.
The poetry is the easy part, right?
Well, for me, for sure,
sarcastically.
because I have like zero.
Yeah, you're just coming in unchecked, ready to roll.
I don't feel. It's interesting because I don't feel any less anxiety stepping into this studio for any episode, any recording, any guest. It feels a lot like stepping onto the mats. Like every single time I step on the mats, it didn't matter if I was teaching or just showing up or whatever. There's always a level of anxiety because you don't know if how it's gonna go that day. And I think when you're performing, when you're doing something, like I felt the same way on the stage, like when I used to play music and stuff like that. Like, although I was always heavily medicated when I was doing that sort of thing. That's why I was kicked out of every band I was ever in. But that's like the same sort of anxiety, but now I welcome it. Now I understand it. Now I'm like, oh, okay. The reason I feel the anxiety is because A, I care about the outcome, and B, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to have to give up a measure of control because I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to take stuff out unless like things get totally off the rails.
Fuck,
We can go there.
Maybe there's something wrong with me because I don't really get anxiety in that regard. I'm just like, I can't control the outcome, so I don't fucking care. Like I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like
I'm not saying I'm like borderline on like apathetic. It's not that I don't care like that.
You've just made your peace.
It's just that I'm like, okay, like we're gonna do this.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be fucking wicked.
And
like,
it could be a situation of a function of you've figured out how to deal with your anticipation beforehand.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't necessarily call
sure.
it anxiety, right? You could call it anticipation.
Yeah, actually, that's
right?
a whole nother podcast. Let's store that we should store that one because that's an interesting thing, like dealing with like anxiety and like how to like pre-prep for like.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I like
and how to like hedge your bet against. I know I'm probably going to panic about this, or
Yeah.
I
There's
know
a certain
that.
amount of recklessness involved.
Well,
for sure,
and we know how
knows.
we know how to overcome it.
Yep.
Practice,
Yeah.
repetition. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So,
Or the more comfortable you're going to get failing at it,
100%.
which is where
Which is
Why
where we're
I'm
at when my good friend Kenton here reads a piece from my new collection, Whiskey Painted Holocaust.
like I said.
hold on.
Oh damn!
First,
Oh my goodness, okay.
we gotta. You have to stay with the program now.
One piece, one sample up into and including 3
Yes.
because we all have to work in the morning.
Yes. This will be the final sample.
I have this. I
Dear
don't know
Lord.
if it's an unfounded idea that everybody thinks that we're just getting together and getting fucking hammered every time we do this podcast.
I definitely could.
We're not.
No.
I find most of our podcasts we have like 1 beer for like 2 hours, maybe 2.
In the earlier podcast where we swore more and we were uncultured and we were not as refined, for sure. But now I would like to think we're pretty cultured.
Okay. Speak for yourself.
I
My
think
second
this should go off
appearance,
the rails.
I can go off the rails if I want to.
This rabbit hole, like Care Hill, Kentucky
There you go.
straight bourbon whiskey. I was really happy to start seeing this stuff up in this neck of the woods. This is comes very well regarded in the South. There was a couple of bottles. There's a local liquor store here in town.
Just go ahead and shout them out. Who cares?
Royal Spirits on the south end by the Shell. Their bourbon shelf is amazing. Amazing.
And it's been for about 6 years.
Yeah, there was a couple bottles there. There was one that I actually wanted to get for this event. If we're going to call this an event. Yeah, but, oil filled.
It's an event.
Worked late. Didn't sleep great last night. Got up, pulled a long shift, got home, tried to sleep, couldn't sleep, got up, worked out instead. So here we are.
As God intended.
All right. You got one picked out or what?
Yeah, I've got one picked out.
All right.
Cheers, bro.
So,
Cheers, brothers.
that might be my favorite.
I'd say that's the best of the night for sure.
Hand that over. I want to read it.
It has nothing to do with getting better with the more you drink, right?
Nothing to do with that at all.
Not at all. Anyways, from the new collection, Whiskey Painted Holocaust. The dagger, the yoke, and the flail.
Oh, that's a long one.
Yep.
Get after it.
Tell me, my lord, what does the dagger say? What does it whisper as it's twisting? Does it make room for apologies? Does it shed tears with bloody vigor? Well-to-do. The better man's device. A heaven wrought in simpler times escapes, like smoke. O soil, that covers my mistakes. Would that they were vapors, lit on winds, that they were gone, like memories. But a haven for the torn and ragged is never what one finds in courts and castles. When the beggar sits upon the stair, the cathedral shows him their despite. What more was there to be expected of a whoremaster and his chattel? Chattel?
Chattel.
Chattel.
People, but yeah, cattle.
He stoked long ago the fires of his own lusts with brimstone of purest pedigree, and purchased his own fate by the kiss of the dagger's tongue. Let us shed a tear for him. Let us run our hands over our faces. Let us beguile ourselves. Beguile ourselves.
Fucking writer cutting in. Shut up, Dave.
It's good. And prostrate our bodies before our diseased and corrupted lords. Better we were slaves to Pharaoh, for at least his avarice was born our great regard, not drawn out of gutters or quickened in cesspits. His was a regal and honorable yoke and flail. Never did one wander of his motives, for he claimed himself deity, with no regard for his own mortality. It was etched in every stone in Egypt. There were no lies in him. Tell me that these cold serpents of today have but half that conviction. Tell me that their hearts do not hold 1 ounce of doubt. Their lies are lies for a liar's sake. A snake's bite for a kiss, a spider's web for a promise. Those who seek to expose them are debased, for they could never conceive of the fear and the bloodthirst of these vile men. Would a man of any real stature ridicule the sick, mock the infirm, rob the old and weak? Would a truly righteous leader ever stoop the wet dagger in the back of his brother for his lands, his wife, his name? Yet these continue. I seek no asylum. I will still my tongue no longer. It is not of any honorable status to sit idly by while unscrupulous men beget this world with a lie and a dagger. They do not know that the steel of that blade is forged in the hearts of gentlemen. It is born of the love of life and the kiss of morning's breath. While it may be wielded by the wicked, it is their undoing in the end, for it will always seek the hand of a good servant. Tell me, my lord, can you hear it? Can you hear the daggers sing? Can you tell me, can you tell what melody rings through your fading senses? It is a song of liberty, my lord. It is freedom. And my public speaking needs work.
Wow.
Fuck, you crushed it.
I don't think there was a harder piece to read that you could have picked out of that collection, dude.
It's the story of his life, really.
Yeah, if you know me, I choose the hard things.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's why we're friends. So, cheers, brother.
Cheers, bro.
Yeah, that's about as close to Shakespeare as this collection gets.
I hate Shakespeare.
What?
He's
I have a book for you.
I was educated in the humanities and traveled to Stratford-on-Avon when I was young. I was never a fan of Shakespeare myself, which is kind of funny because I was always really a fan of like the medieval stuff. So there was a time in high school, me and a friend of mine, Lewis, we had to do an English project based on Shakespeare, and him and I were working together. We played a lot of like D&D and read a lot of comic books, but we were both really into drawing. So for the project for English class, I think we talked about like grade 9 or 8 or something like this. We drew up a comic that was based on Conan. And it was called Romeo the Cimmerian.
Nice. Fuck, I hope you still have that somewhere.
No, I have no idea. But he was a fantastic artist. So he was able to mimic, like, because back in the early 90s, like, the Conan was killing it in the comics.
Yep.
He was able to mimic a lot of that drawing style, and I did all the words. So we did, like, the very beginning of, in the beginning when anyway, there's a whole beginning to the Conan comics, and it was like hither came Romeo, the Italian, and it was all bloody and so we got fantastic marks on it. But I was never a huge fan of Shakespeare, and in my classical studies, I guess, like I was pre-journalism in college here at Grand Prairie Regional College. For a couple of years.
For whatever that stands for now.
Yeah, and it's a Northwestern Polytechnic now. It's a Polytechnical Institute, which makes more sense. I was on a pre-journalism course. So I would have done 4 years, and then that would have been transferable over to a journalism course in wherever. I dropped out kind of after my second year. And one of the reasons I left was because even though this was in in like 1997, I graduated. So this would have been like 98, 99 when I went to college. Even then, the woke agenda was so deeply ingrained in the English course, where they were asking us to review classical literature, specifically Shakespeare, and point out the misogyny and the colonialism and stuff like that.
You mean the points in Shakespeare where he had male actors playing the part of females because...
Well, let me put it this way. I wrote an essay about how Shakespeare was the first feminist, and that was the last thing I ever handed in college. I don't know what my grade was.
Mic drop.
I just handed it in and never went back to class, dropped out of college. And it's like I didn't do this for any... Like, don't get it wrong. I didn't do this out of any kind of virtue. I did this because I was like dealing with a lot of heavy depression, a lot of bad things in my life, and spiraling into drug addiction and substance abuse heavily. But it just left as a bad taste in my mouth even back then about how these things were being done. But like the like I said, the meter and verse of it is still valid. So Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter most of the time. Like it's there's still structure and stuff like that in poetry that's useful.
Yeah, right? I had a shout out to Mrs. Richards, who became Mrs. Kirby. Miss Richards, who became Mrs. Kirby. I had the most wonderful English teacher growing up.
Yeah,
I grew up in a shitty town with shitty teachers, but she was fucking awesome. Most of the time, I got kicked out of her class and had to sit in the hallway. Because I was not very good.
I can see it.
There was a lot of detention and suspension.
I'm not surprised.
but her love.
But you're in good company.
Yeah, but her love of Shakespeare, and she would let all of us assholes in the class, like, you could read it as bombastically stupendous as you wanted. She encouraged it. Yeah, and so we had a great time, man. And I actually have like the master compendium of Shakespeare, like all of it.
Nice.
Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, like all of it's in there, and I fucking love all of it. I'm not saying, I don't know if I could read it now with the same vigor that I read it back then, because I was like, she was a really encouraging person who would break it down for you and explain it, but I got nothing against Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think I had the same thing in that when I studied the humanities. So the humanities was English, social studies, and I can't remember the other one, all like rolled into one. Yeah. So when you were studying one particular time in social studies and history, you were studying like the art and the music and everything from that time as well.
Yeah, it made sense.
The writing. And so you were learning everything in kind of a graduated scale. Yeah. So things kind of were all interlinked, I had some great teachers, man. The only reason I ever graduated is because I had teachers that, you know, I was kicked out of school, and like one of the funniest stories is I was kicked out of school for telling the principal to suck my dick, I'm pretty sure. And
that could be a tangent.
I was in the school because I was either selling or buying weed. I was kicked out of, and my social studies teacher at the Grand Prairie Composite High School, so shout out to the Grand Prairie Composite High School, was walking down the hallway and he saw me and he's like, "Hey, you haven't been in class in a while." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm kicked out." He's like, "Says who?" Says, you know, principal, whoever. He's like, "Come to my office." I'm like, okay, I got nothing to do. I don't want to go to school. So, and I think the guy was going to get money or something, or going to get weed or whatever it was. So I go back to his office. He's like, "Wait here." I'm like, okay. He comes back. He's like, "Be in my class on Monday." Okay. Sure enough. Yes, boss, I'll be there. Yeah. And if it wasn't for teachers like that who took a chance on me, then I wouldn't. Books like these kind of things would never exist. So shout out to teachers who stick their neck out for drug dealing pieces of shit that happen to go to high school.
I wasn't dealing drugs, but my teacher definitely took a risk on me. I spent most of the year in the hallway. Most of the years actually in all of her classes in the hallway. I wasn't allowed in the class, but she was good. I was shitty.
I'm gonna lie. I probably bought more drugs in high school than I sold, but that's what it is.
Fuck. And now we have this book,
Basic Economics at Work.
Imagine that. Yeah. The guy in his 40s publishing poetry books did a lot of drugs in high school. Shocking.
I wouldn't buy a book otherwise.
Yeah, there's a bunch of pieces about drugs and substance abuse in here too.
Okay, so I've got a question about the time frame.
Okay.
So what year was this collection based off of?
This is 2017.
2017. What events in your life happened, like monumental things in 2017 happened to you that you went like, oh, okay. And did those help shape the poetry that you put in this collection?
Well, I think there was, like I said, like when it came to like there was a level of discipline that came to writing every day that happened about 2016. That's why the first collection was 2016. And that was spurred on, and the reason that the two of you are sitting here was by the people that I was associating myself with at that time. So I was getting heavily into fitness. We were doing tons of martial arts training. We were doing tons of Bujinkan ninjutsu at the time. We were doing tons of firearms training. We were bringing in instructors from all over. And that's what led to this idea that, and that's kind of where this podcast comes from, is that when you pursue your interests and you pursue them diligently and with discipline and with honesty about who you are and honesty about what you're interested in, that these strange dividends come out of it. If you maintain curiosity and an open mind and like I said, an honesty about where you're at with things and build those relationships, then you get these strange dividends that come out of it. And this is one of them. Like 2017, we traveled to Japan.
Yeah.
We traveled to Noda Prefecture and trained in Hombu with Masaki Hatsumi Sensei, and that was obviously a huge thing. And it's funny because I don't know exactly what pieces that I wrote while I was there or traveling. I know there was one piece that I wrote called Into the Dragon Sky that I wrote actually on the flight there that didn't actually make the cut.
Okay.
The reason why is because I was on the plane and I was like, I want to write a piece while this monumental thing is happening. I want to capture it. And a lot of the time when you're forcing something, when you're there and you're in the midst of it,
doesn't have the impact.
It's
it doesn't
good.
land the way.
Well, the thing is, it's good and it's good for me. it just may not translate beyond me, right? So I picked the pieces for this that I believe are going to have the most impact, the most potential for change, the most potential for impact with other people. It's not for me. Like I said, when this thing is done, it's done. It gets published and it's gone. It's no longer mine. The moment I publish something, I relinquish ownership of it. I give it to the world. It's a burnt offering, right? And then it's done. And then I move on to the next thing and the next thing. That's the nature of being a creative person. That's why people that are creative that you see spiral downward are people that can't let go of their creations. The biggest downfall of humanity is falling in love with your creation or your ability to create, thinking that you've created something that's so much better and so much more viable than the rest of the world. My idea is the best. My politics are the best. My whatever is the best. My jiu-jitsu is the best, right? Like, that's the downfall of man.
It's not.
This is really why I'm blessed, because I'm not good at anything, really.
That's how I see it.
I just show up and suffer.
Yeah, like I said, I consider myself a hack writer. Like, I do all the things you're not supposed to do in writing. I use cliches. I take the easy way out. I don't do my homework. Like, I follow my instincts, and that's about it, right? And I think it still pays dividends. It doesn't make my expression any less valid. And I don't think, like, there's people who make a living off of poetry, and their poetry is great. They deserve to make a living from it, but they're part of a system. They're part of a culture that they rely on for that, and that's great. But what about the rest of everybody? Do they not deserve poetry? Do they not deserve to have access to it? That if something that they write, I think a lot of people write stuff and they never show it to anyone. They expect that someone's going to read it when they die. And I think that's a shame. I think that they should show it to everyone while they're alive.
I think that's art in general. I think there's always way more artists in any given discipline.
Medium.
Yeah, or medium than will ever be recognized.
Yeah.
Well, how many fantastic artists never open their portfolio, never show what they're capable of because, well, if I can pick your reason why.
Well, most
because Jocko didn't tell them to do it every day.
Yeah, I know some fantastic artists. I know people who can draw. Actually, yeah, there's people I train with that can that are fantastic artists that can draw. They're funny and whatever, but they'll never put that out there.
Yeah, and in my mind, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think everyone's expression is valid, and it's up to the audience to decide what's good and what's not. Yeah, it's not up. It's kind of like politics that way. It's not up to the political industry to tell us, like the people who are paid by politics, to tell us what's good and what's not. I think it's up to the people who are voting to tell us what's good and what's not. Right? There's a holistic thing that we've lost in the industry, and by monetizing things and protecting things and making it so we're so afraid that someone's going to take away our position in the world. And yeah, it's kind of sad. Like, because everyone is like, there are artists out there who are creating some fantastic stuff, and they deserve every accolade that's out there. But somebody who's having the courage to put something out there for the first time is just as deserving of, that kind of support and those kind of accolades in my mind.
100%.
Anyway, like I said, there was one more piece here, and
all right, before we do that, can I take a quick piss break?
Absolutely, man.
Weirdly enough, I blew out my right elbow. Jiu-jitsu, imagine that.
Shocker.
That never happens in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, this thing's back at 100%, 110 actually.
Nice.
Left elbow, for some reason, probably compensating for the right, is jacked the fuck up, and I can't seem to unbugger it.
Yeah,
so physio coming up.
Yeah, they did an ultrasound on my left shoulder, and I got the doctor to give me the lowdown. He's like, "You've got tendonitis, tendinosis, and a tear, and it looks degenerative.
Have I mentioned you're old and
good.
this will never get better?
Although this totally coincides with me like finding this like bodybuilder on Instagram and like stealing his shoulder workouts. So
probably the best thing you could do is just start doing some jiu-jitsu.
Probably it's just
Fix that shit. Fix that shit.
Do you got a white belt? No. Okay, we can fix that.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get as soon as it doesn't hurt to put my arms behind my head. We'll get there. I think that'll happen with
what
physio.
The fuck, man?
Even if it does.
I wouldn't know that feeling
does.
for the last 10 years. It definitely hurts to put my arms behind my head.
All right, we're going to wrap it up with one last one. Yeah, thank you guys so much for I don't even know if this is going to be listenable. This is going to be an interesting thing to edit. If anybody ends up liking this, good on you. You are a brave and curious person. But like I said, this one might explain a little bit as to why I do this thing. It's called Poet. They never called me poet. They called me weak, called me sanguine, called me depressive, called me ineffectual. They called me liar, called me dreamer, called me traitor, called me weird, but never close enough that I could hear them. I'm basking in these moments because they're all that I have now. The words just cascade off of me like a waterfall. This is my mind. This is my soul. This is my therapy, my midlife crisis, my born-again moment, again and again, baptized by the pen. I never needed them to call me poet. This is my mind that I share, where I admit that I'm scared, and triumphs are rare. But they're there. I'm fending off total despair with words instead of a gun, instead of a needle, instead of a bottle. I've already won this and so many battles by fighting before they've begun. I guess this is the time to tell you all my secrets, since you've hung in with me this far, I guess. I guess I have to pay you for your eyes, your mind, and your heart. Honestly, I'd rather steal them, bilk you out of your emotions, and make the perfect getaway. I guess I'm all the things that they say, and to be honest, I've never enjoyed calling myself poet. Thanks, gentlemen.
Dang, I guess this is where I cut in and say it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, fucking Apple Podcast, CastBox. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, all the things like that. Check us out on our website, thegreyrange.com, where you will find the Black Death Negative t-shirt dropping soon. It's fucking, it has to happen now.
Yeah, by the time this episode comes out, the web store will be live.
Hyped it up, so... And,
also, get masturbatory glad handing trending, please.
I don't know. Should they be gloves?
Maybe.
Anyways.
Obviously, all the books and things like that you can get on Amazon, through the website. That shit's the website.
Absolutely. And you can pick up the new collection, Whiskey Painted Holocaust, on Amazon. Signed hardcovers are coming. They'll be available on the website. I'll post it up on all the socials when that's available. We're just working on some cover formatting issues, but thank you guys for hanging in this long. If you aren't drunk already, we're getting there. This is the Grey Range Podcast. Out.
Cheers.